good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here once again. And for those who have just joined us, thanks for taking this hour and a half off this afternoon to learn all about what is colored brain and how is colored brain going to help us in both our personal lives and also in our professional lives. So we're going to jump right into it. I'm going to start by introducing myself because I see a lot of people here today, and based on the efforts that has gone out, many of you have joined the programs today, and I have not met you and I don't know who you are. So I'll introduce who I am so that we can connect at the end of the program today. I'll give you some of my contact information at the end so you can connect through my website, my social handles, and some of my contact information as well. So just a little bit about myself. Before we begin, at some point later, I hope you guys are familiar with Zoom. So at some point later, I'm going to want you to rename yourselves, your name, and brain color that you think you are, right? So this will be based on after my explanation and you understand a bit more about colored brain. I would like you to rename yourselves with your name and your color. So for now, please just rename yourselves if you can to just your preferred name so that it's easier for me to refer to you as maybe your first name or your nickname or something that you just like to be known as. So after renaming yourself, when it comes to questions, I'm sure you will have some questions along the way. So please do either raise your hands physically, or you can use one of the reaction buttons in Zoom to raise your hands if you'd like to ask a question, or at any point you can type in your question in the chat box. So either me or my co-host will look at the questions that you have, and we'll address your questions as we move along. And if you have your webcams and if you want to turn them on, and if you're in a position or you're in an environment which allows it, so please do, because this is going to give me more energy as well. But if you really can't, I would understand, right? But please do mute yourselves though, because we want to not have any sounds or background sounds that may interrupt the session that is going on. And of course, most importantly, let's learn together, let's have some fun together, let's find out what colored brain is and how it's going to help us in our organizational and also personal success, as our title has suggested. Now, just a little bit about myself. My name is Davidson Abishegam. I've been a trainer for the past 23 years, and in the last 2 years, I've moved on into colored brain psychology, helping companies and helping organizations to understand how colored brain psychology is going to help you get along better with those around you. Whether you're dealing with your bosses or whether you're dealing with your colleagues, subordinates, or vendors or friends, family, basically anybody, even with your children, you will realize that colored brain is going to help you to deal better with the people around you, and also to understand yourself better once you know which color or which category you belong to, right? So let me not jump into that first. We will build up towards that, and I'm going to show you something extra also today. On top of colored brain, I'd like to talk to you about something called emotional drivers. So emotional drivers is basically why we do what we do. So when we combine the knowledge of colored brain together with emotional drivers, you're going to see that it's going to be so powerful in how you understand yourself and how you understand the people that's around you, especially at your workplace. So we will do a kind of conclusion at the end. Let me come to the agenda in just a bit. So a bit about myself. I'm a certified colored brain trainer and consultant as well for the past 2 years. And I'm also certified in a few other areas in DC psychology, which is directive communication psychology, and a couple of other online trainings and other certifications that you can see on the PowerPoint right now. So these are some of the relevant certifications that I have that has brought me to where I am today, and what I would like to share with with organizations and people around me, because it's a passion of mine, of course, and it's something that I want to share, which is why I promised you in the email and also in the ads that there's no hard selling whatsoever. It's purely 1.5 hours of just sharing and learning together. Right, just to bring your attention to some of the relevant certifications for this program is, of course, Colored Brain, Environment and Influence, the top right icon, a little bit of NLP you will see embedded, Emotional Drive and Human Motivation. And if you look at the two icons, the two emblems in the middle section, it's called the Most Loved Culture and the Most Loved Workplace. So Colored Brain, or DC, has been selected, or rather endorsed, as a program that once you certify yourself in that, or you go through that process, your company can make its way into being one of the most loved workplace or most loved culture. It's a thing that a lot of companies are actually now looking at, especially started from the US, of course, and it's now making its way into Southeast Asia and other parts of the world as well. Just to also very quickly let you know, since we're already here, this coming Thursday, which is the 12th of November, I will also be doing a similar webinar like this, but on a topic called virtual engagement. So for those of you who are interested in understanding how to conduct meetings, how to conduct training, coaching, or facilitation online, similar to what I'm doing now, and you want to learn the tools and about your webcam and sound and stuff like that, I will be doing another free webinar on Wednesday. My co-host will actually give you the link at the end of the program, and you can sign up for that for this coming Thursday as well. Just to let you quickly know that as well. Yeah. So a little bit about what I did last year. I'm very proud to let all of you know that I wrote my first book last year, entitled 8 Vital Skills to Succeed at the Workplace. Because as I mentioned a while ago, it's one of my passions to help people at the workplace to become better versions of themselves, and to garner and to use and to learn and to have and demonstrate the vital skills that they need to succeed at what they do at the workplace. Yeah, so our agenda this afternoon. Okay, so I'm going to start by actually introducing to you what psychometric tools are. I'm not going to go so in depth, but just to kind of give you a definition so that we understand that Colored Brain is actually a psychometric tool as well. And I'll kind of talk about a little bit on some of the other psychometric tools that you may be familiar with and what differentiates the others and Colored Brain. Now, when it comes to psychometric tools, I subscribe to many of them, some of which I'm going to show you later. And I'd like you all to kind of keep an open mind on how each of these tools has its own benefits, its own pros and cons at the same time. So we'll start with psychometric tools, and I will then move to talking about something called, I'm kind of going to take you through a journey, if I may. And this journey is how to build ourselves individually to become a hero or a superhero. And it's derived from a program that I conduct called Being Right. And the program itself is of course about 2 days, but I'm going to take about 10-15 minutes just to explain what being right means before we jump into Colored Brain. Then we'll talk about Colored Brain, and I'll talk about the assessment. Of course, you're not doing the assessment today. You can choose to do it if you want at the end of the program. You can get in touch with us, but I'm going to show you what the assessment is pretty much about. And I'll show you some of the charts and some of the results that you may see in your report, so you kind of can understand what you're going to get out of the assessment. Then the second part of what we want to do today, which is emotional drivers, which is also called your human motivators. We want to talk about that, and we'll look at 8 different drivers and what our top drivers are. Individually, that is going to be your takeaway for today. Knowing what's your color, your brain color, and what are your top 3 motivators. Whatever motivates you may not be the same motivators that the person next to you have. Your boss may not have the same thing. Your colleagues may not have the same thing. I may not have the same thing. So we're going to deep dive into that and see what drives each one of us today. Then, of course, we will kind of do a conclusion where I'll wrap up and see how having the knowledge of both colored brain and your human motivational drivers is going to help you succeed better in terms of communicating and having less stress in your workplace. And then, of course, a Q&A can go on throughout. You can ask your questions throughout the 1.5 hour session, but we'll kind of have a Q&A at the end as well, just to kind of wrap it all up. So let's start with psychometric tools. Now, the definition of psychometric tools comes from the word psycho, which is your brain, your mind, and or your psyche, and metrics. Metrics simply means a kind of a standard or a kind of a measurement. So you want to kind of measure how your brain behaves, how you do things, how you think, right? So it's mostly we use the word psychometric tools for profiling purposes, to profile someone's behavior, to profile the way or the reason why we do what we do, right? So we have heard of many different psychometric tools in the market. There are dozens of them. There's even one of our local Malaysian Dr. Leonard, who has come up with his own psychometric tools, very powerful. In fact, I just got into that like several months ago during our lockdown. I purchased his book as well, and I find it very powerful. It's called LPI, if you have heard of it, right? So what I want to do is I actually want to start with a very quick poll. And I'm not sure if you guys can see the poll. Let me see if my co-host can help me with that.
Yeah, we can't see the poll, so I'll launch it now.
Okay. Right, so the poll is basically just to very quickly find out how familiar are you with the following psychometric tools in the market. Now, please remember that this is not an exhaustive list. It's just a selected list of 10 different psychometric tools, some more common than the other. So go ahead and select the ones that you are either familiar with or you have heard of it at least, and let's see what the result of that is. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to do that. Go ahead. All right, I hope that's given you some time to kind of fill up that poll. If you can just launch the results.
Yeah.
All right, so from here we can see from the 10, almost everyone has heard of most of them except for FIRO-B, and we can see that the DISC assessment is kind of the highest. Yeah, so I'm looking at this on my phone. Yeah, it has got 63%, almost half. 32 of you have selected DISC. You've heard of it. Many of you have also heard of MBTI. It comes a close second. Colored Brain, of course, Lumina, Spark, and of course the Big 5 personality test as well. So we can see here clearly that except for one, most of you have heard of most of the psychometric tools out there, especially MBTI and also DISC. Now, I have a couple more here because the poll didn't fit more than 10. So you may have heard of some others here, like I mentioned a while ago, LPI, the Leonard Personality Inventory, that's also there. And then you have color profiling, not to be confused with Colored Brain, that's a different one, right? And there's also 16PF and FIRO-B and all the others that you see there. Now, each of them have their own unique points, their own unique strengths, and most of these, you will notice, are measuring your personality or your behavior. Okay. Now, one thing I like about Colored Brain It doesn't make it any more superior, but why I like colored brain is it is not assessing one's personality or behavior, although it is a psychometric tool, right? So we'll come to that. So just bear that in mind, that while it is a psychometric tool, it is not assessing your behavior, right? So that is something very interesting, and we will come to that shortly. Let's look a little bit about just the top two that we saw earlier, which was DISC and MBTI. I won't take too much time on this, but just to give those who have used this before, if explored this before, I subscribe to DISC and MBTI personally. And if you notice the key words that you see there under D, I, S, and C, right? You see words like impressive, words like steady, demanding, competent, yeah, careful, and so forth. You notice these are all behaviors, right? And that is what DISC is actually assessing, right? Behaviors that make up who this person is, the person who takes the test, right? Let's move on to MBTI. Now, MBTI, for those who have tried it out, you do realize that MBTI has got 16 categories or 16 possible results that you could actually fall under, and you would fall under obviously one of them, right? And the two letters for each category is you are either E or I, which is saying which is to determine whether you're an extrovert or an introvert. S and I, sensing or intuitive, thinking or feeling, T and F, and judging and perceiving. So after you complete the MBTI assessment, you would be given, or you would be assessed to be one of each of these two. So your end result would be one of the 16 that you see on the right side. So for example, I am an ISTJ. So that automatically tells you that I am an introvert simply because of the I. So it's either going to start with an I or it's going to start with an E. Now, while I subscribe to this personally, as I mentioned, I don't particularly like the fact that it is pigeonholing a person and saying that if you are I, you are not an E. So if you're an introvert, you're not an extrovert, because most of us can be both, depending on the situation that we are, or the environment that we are put in. So for example, although I'm an I, when it comes to my work environment, I'm an E. So that makes me kind of both, right? So yes, I do agree, you might have a preferred, whether you're introvert or an extrovert, you might have a preference for one of these, but the very fact that I am an I kind of always, make me question it, because I feel I'm not so much of an introvert, right? So while I like this test, like I said, I do subscribe to it, but the labeling part kind of, makes me wonder whether am I really an introvert or not, right? So that's basically what MBTI is. Now, if you look at some of these very famous people, some world people like Mahatma Gandhi, and you'll notice from their caricatures here, right? Mother Teresa and so forth, Martin Luther Jr. So you will notice that they all have their own test results, if you may call it, right? So, for example, Mahatma Gandhi is INFJ, right? So this is basically what MBTI has done. Okay, I like it for most parts, but I try to use a lot of different tools in order to assess one's behavior. We should not stick to just one tool in order to understand a person. I know many organizations, we use these tools for our employees, we use these tools even for hiring purposes, right? And for team formations and to set up people in your departments and all that. So we are going to start off, like I mentioned earlier, in a short journey that I want to take you before we dive into right? Before we jump into colored brain. So the journey is going to begin with me introducing three characters to you. Right? Now the three characters are. Hold on, let me just mute everyone, just so that there's no interruption. Okay, so the three characters that I'd like to introduce to you today are Rama. Rama is the monkey that you see on the right side, and then you have Jack. Jack is the lizard, and then you have Mary. Okay, now each of them have their own personality. Each of them have their own characteristics, and by us going through this journey, we will notice that oftentimes we belong in one of the categories. Sometimes we are like Mary, sometimes we behave like Jack, and sometimes we do behave like Rama. Now in this story, Rama is going to be our superhero. Rama is who we want to aim to be like, because he's the positive person who's always looking at the big picture, always looking at the objectives of what needs to be done. He doesn't get hindered by the problems or the processes that causes problems, that causes us to often firefight. There will be problems, yes, but many of us get stuck in the process of these problems, and it stops us from moving forward. It stops us from achieving the objective of what we start out to do. So the superhero, just bear that in mind, is Rama in this story. Then we have Jack. Now Jack is the lizard, because the lizard always, as we know them, always reacts, right? We are always making comments, we are always cynical, we are always blaming, right? We are never happy with what we have. It's never our fault. It's always the fault of the people around us. So Jack is that person. So bear that in mind. And then we have Mary. Now Mary is actually not bad. She's a good observer. She's also the type of person who comes up with brilliant ideas. And sometimes we are like her. We observe things, we have ideas. However, Mary is also the type of person who is very silent. She's the silent observer. Means she does not take action. She's not assertive enough to do anything about what she observes. So in our work life, we are often like Mary as well. We know things are happening, but we just don't do anything about it. So that does not make Mary very popular in this story, right? So she's not the superhero. So another name that we can call Jack, we're going to call him the villain, right? We're going to call him the villain, and Rama is going to be the hero or the superhero in this case. We'll come back to them later. So as they proceed or they move on in this journey, right? We always realize that, oftentimes in our work life, we are not happy working in a department. We're not happy working in an organization. We may not even be happy working in a particular country. So what happens is we tell, okay, I don't deserve this. This is not what I want, right? The people here are useless. The people here are not working out. So we end up transferring departments. We'll say, okay, maybe if I move to another department, life will be much better for me. And then we move to another department. Or worse still, we resign, we move to another organization altogether, right? And then we realize when we move to a new company or a new organization, the same things happen again. You give it enough time, the same issues crop up again. And again, we start blaming them. Again, we start making all these assumptions that, the environment around me is bad, the people around me are useless. And this happens no matter where we go. Now, how often do we stop to think that sometimes when what we do affects the environment, we react to the environment, and the environment in turn reacts back to us, right? It's kind of like tit for tat. Like I yell at you, you yell at me, and because you yelled at me, I yell back at you, and it just escalates into bigger things, into conflicts, right? So how often do we stop to think that why is that happening, and could we be the reason behind that? Means the common denominator for all these problems is us. We are that problem. Now, many times it's not easy for us to blame ourselves because we are never wrong, right? That is the feeling we always have. We would never blame ourselves. It's always the people around us that is wrong or that is at fault. So what we are going to show you here today is how, once we use colored brain, we can not only help ourselves, but we can also help the people who are not like us, the people who think differently, the people who do things differently. We are kind of going to debunk that and find out why they do that, so that we get a better understanding of the people that we work with or the people that's around us, right? So at the end of the day, basically, we want to be this superhero. We want to be like Rama.
Dave, there's a question here from Mohammed Khairul Anwar.
Yeah.
And he's asking you.
Okay, so in moving from a department to another department, doesn't that make our own portfolio kind of bad in image? Well, the answer is yes or no, because if it's bad if you're leaving because there's problems there. So you find a problem in one department, it's bad, you look at it as bad, you move to another department and it's bad again. So which is why we talked about a minute ago that sometimes we don't realize that the problem could be us. Not necessarily, but it could be us. So with what we're going to learn in the next 1 hour, hopefully when we understand why people do what they do, when we understand why, how different people process information in order to make decisions, then perhaps we can have a much better understanding and get along and communicate better with these people. And that will hopefully not, or prevent you, that will hopefully prevent you from having to jump from department to department to stay away from these people. All right, so I hope that kind of answers the question. Yeah. So what we want to look at right now is, oftentimes, I mentioned this a while ago, oftentimes we become a slave to the lizard, if that makes sense, right? We are governed, we are controlled by how the lizard behavior is, right? Because the lizard is always reacting, never acting, never thinking, it's just reacting. So if you look at what happens here is we are oftentimes, as I mentioned a while ago, firefighting. We are firefighting with the people around us in our department. There's inter-department conflicts. The sales department can't get along with the finance department. The marketing cannot get along with the finance department. The admin department can't get along with the finance. Like, no one can get along with the finance department usually, isn't it? Right? But again, have we stopped to think why these conflicts are happening? Yes, they may say things a certain way. They may do things a certain way. Not the way that we are used to, or not in a way that we think is acceptable. And that's where Colored Brain, you will notice shortly, is going to help you differentiate the different kind of people and how they process information. So very often we are stuck in the process of getting things done, where we should be looking at the objective. The objective is the end game, the end goal. Right? No, all our companies, we have visions, we have missions, we have KPIs, things that the company wants to achieve. And very often, this is hindered by the processes that we need to go through in order to achieve that. And these processes sometimes can be huge. It can cause you to resign. It can cause you to become very, very angry with people, right? It causes a lot of stress, basically. So the question is, why are we so stuck in the process and not looking at the big picture? Not looking at why are we even here in this organization? What is the big goal? Why is it so difficult to be on track and look at that goal? The answer is simple, because the process itself and what happens there can be so overwhelming that we forget about the objective. We are so stuck in the process itself, okay? And that's because of miscommunication and the arguments and the fights and the disagreements that may crop up because of this misunderstandings and miscommunications. So that is what today we're going to try to look at, to move away from worrying about the process. Right? So if we focus on the main objective, right? You're gonna hear this word several times today, and learn how to act more intelligently, okay, how to act intelligently, then you will realize that you will be acting instead of reacting starting from this moment. Okay, so that's a skill that you will hopefully get once you understand the colored brain of the people that you work with. So if you look at this cartoon, it's very easy to see that Jack is saying, "Why did you turn here? This is now going to take us an extra hour." It's evident that this is a blame culture because they made a mistake, obviously. But now let's look at the objective. How can we fix? We all make mistakes. We are all human. But the blame game is not going to solve the problem. It's being stuck in the process, as I mentioned, right? So let's look at a few more examples. If you look at this slide, we believe that if you have a culture that we call the no blame zone, then you actually take the word blame and kind of gamify it. The word blame becomes like a taboo word. You're not supposed to use that because blame is something we just don't do. So we kind of have an agreement in our organization. Look, from today onwards, we are not going to blame anyone for anything, even for your mistakes. What can we do when someone makes an apparent error or a mistake, right? So we want to look at the alternative to blaming. So the alternative to blaming is to fail intelligently. I'm not saying you're not going to make mistakes. We all are going to make mistakes. Everyone's going to make mistakes. Your children's going to make mistakes. Your partners are going to make mistakes. Your boss is going to make mistakes. But the point here is we want to learn how to fail and fail intelligently. And you do that by these three things. Number one, we check in on them if they understand the consequences of their action or inaction. We check with them for immediate solutions that they can use to overcome the current situation. We ask what they can do in future to prevent such a similar situation from happening. So these are just some of the questions you can direct at the person who made a mistake rather than blaming them. Because remember, when you blame, they are going to react, then you're going to react back, they're going to react to your reaction, and it becomes kind of like a vicious cycle. So in summary of this particular slide, if you look at the three characters we looked at earlier, the lizard is always going to be blaming. So we call that the lizard's way. Then you have Mary's way, and she's just observing, not doing anything about it. And then you have, of course, the hero's way. So Rama, you can see, is saying, I will see my objectives and I will work with others intelligently to achieve my objectives, no matter what they do. But he wants to make intelligent decisions, right? So I'm going to go on to something called encoded assumptions. Now, I believe many of you have seen a game of maze, right? So we all have played this since we were young. We are familiar with it. So if it's clear enough for you, especially those on a laptop or on a computer, you'll see that the crown at the top is where you make intelligent actions. And Rama starts right at the bottom. You'll see a little picture of Rama there. So you are here, you start here. So if I were to ask you now to annotate, now I'm sure, how many of us are here today? So we have 95 of you. So if I were to ask you to annotate, so turn on your annotation, just use the drawing toolbar, and to complete this maze and take Rama, guide Rama from where he is to intelligent actions. And I'm going to give you 20 seconds to do that without reaching a dead end. Let's see how you work it out. Go ahead, you got 20 seconds. That was very quick, Loy. Anyone else? I had someone last week who just broke through the whole maze. Like he drew a line right from the bottom to the top. So that doesn't work. That's not how mazes work usually, isn't it? Okay, so you can see we have some various drawings. Some of you have reached a dead end because the assumption we have when we play a game of maze like this is to go into the maze, isn't it? And of course, we turn left, we turn right, and often we reach a dead end. All right? And I'm gonna just stop the annotation. And when we actually do that, you will realize that we will reach dead ends. In fact, in this particular drawing that you're going to see, you are going to reach a dead end. Because the assumption is many of us are going to go into the maze. And that's where you'll notice there's actually no solution. Some of us, we actually work backwards to see where we should begin, or where, the trail. But some of us, I think Lowe was one of them, and I don't know if anyone else did it, probably you did it, right? You could have actually taken the left path, or you could have taken the right path. But that would also mean that you are going outside the box. Now, I didn't give you any rules. I didn't say you could not go outside the box. This is because it's an assumption that we have. And this assumption is a big thing, because growing up, since we were young, right, everything that we did from going to kindergarten, to school, to college, right, our environment, our parents, our teachers, our community, our government has shaped our thinking, right? All the, everything that we know, basically, right, has been shaped from these teachings. Parents tell us, you cannot do it. You can't do this. You shouldn't do that. This is how this is supposed to be. And we start believing it, and we start living it. So what happens at the end is we realize that these become our beliefs, that things should be in a certain way. And anything outside that becomes not normal. So if someone comes and tells us otherwise, we start having an argument with them, because we tell them, no, this is how it's supposed to be, because it was formed based on our beliefs. Let me just turn off the annotation. Right? So what happens is, you will notice, like, look at this little callouts. We always say results should be like this, friends should be like this, achievement is like this, people should be like this, my work colleagues should be like that. And all these assumptions form the person that we are. Because when it doesn't match what our beliefs are, then it becomes a conflict. It becomes an argument, right? Because of these encoded assumptions that we have about things. Okay? Which is why, let's understand encoded assumptions a little bit. Encoded assumptions gets in the way of your objective. It always becomes that stumbling block to achieve your objectives. Secondly, it creates unnecessary stress. It promotes reactions instead of intelligent actions. It causes us to react, get angry, lose our cool. And our past is shaping our future. So whatever we have learned in the past, that shapes who we are in the future. So if that belief is so strong, we're going to carry on with that belief into our future, into our work, into our families, into our friends even. And lastly, the decisions we make when we were young has created encoded assumptions about the way things should be. Right? So these are all the decisions that we make since we were young, all because of the encoded assumptions that we have. Let's give me a second to clear all the drawings. Right. So that is why we are going to look at colored brain today and see whether it makes any difference in how we now react and understand people. Firstly, I mentioned this a while ago, colored brain is not a behavioral or a personality test. So keep that in mind. It is a psychometric tool which helps with decision making. It helps with effective communication. Colored brain is basically the way your brain processes information. So how your brain processes information versus how my brain processes information are different. And that's what we aim to find out today. Colored brain is also genetic. It's innate. You're born with it. So for example, if your processor is red, you're always going to be red. You are born a red, you will leave this world red as well. And it cannot be changed. Before anyone has a question on that, it cannot be changed. You can try to be another color, but you cannot change your dominant color. Yep. It also helps, it basically helps you understand how your brain gets clarity. So we all have a processor in our brain, and your processor and mine are not the same. So if you follow your processor, you will get clarity the way you always got clarity. You cannot use my processor to do the same. Okay? And why it helps? Because it provides a platform to help you bring out the best in yourself and the people around you. It also helps you to find out the root causes. So if you want to know what is the root cause in my department, why are things not working out, why are people always fighting and arguing, Colored Brain is going to help you find out the root cause behind those conflicts. And last but not least, it is going to affect the individual, which is you and I, your teams, your departments, and your group or your organization's performance at the end, you will see. All right, so I'm going to take you through the 4 colors right now. So it's basically red, green, blue, and purple in no particular order. And a few other benefits, if you want to know some of the benefits of Colored Brain, is it helps with your personal development. It makes you a better person. It is going to give you some self-realization to help you deal with things, deal with situations, deal with people in a much better way. It, of course, improves your relationships with those around you. It reduces conflicts and misunderstandings, and it is very useful for your team building, getting teams to work better together, and for your leadership. So if today you hold some leadership level, you're a team leader or a manager or a CEO, it's going to help you deal with your subordinates, people who report to you. They will see you as a true leader because you don't react anymore, right? You're going to think and act more intelligently with this knowledge, right? You see the 3 colors here, the yellow, the red, and the green very quickly. So why Colored Brain? So the yellow tells you that it's going to give you visible results. The red tells you that it's reliable in its application because it has been proven, it's tested, it's been validated by the American Institute of Business Psychology, AIOBP. So this is a tool that is basically endorsed and research based as well. And of course, it's simple and practical. The test takes you around 20 minutes to do, or 15 minutes, and you get a report at the end, which kind of gives you some information and insights about yourself and how to deal with the other colors, right? So today we're going to look at the awareness of yourself to give yourself more clarity so that you can work effectively with others. You're going to learn how to interact with other people in a much better way. And you're going to know how your brain processes information individually, and you're going to know why you do what you do. And that is your emotional drivers, which I will cover at the end. So we're going to start with the colored glasses syndrome, so you understand a little bit about what we are talking about. Now, just imagine that all of you were given a glass, a colored glass. Say you're red, I'm blue, someone else is green, someone else is purple. So we all have our glasses. So think of it as a lens, you know, those cosmetic lenses that we have. So imagine if you are wearing a red lens, everything you're going to see is going to be mixed with that red. So if I see something out there that is orange, when that orange mixes with my red, I'm going to see something completely different than what you are going to see. So I'm going to say it's orange, but you're going to say no, it is magenta. So you see how the arguments are going to start, because we see things in a different way, right? And we actually do this as an exercise. I'm skipping that part today, but just to understand, if we had 2 arrows here for 2 directions, and each of us wore different glasses, and I told you follow the dark arrow, do you know half of you will actually go down, and the other half of you might go up? Because the dark arrow for you is, for some of you, is going to be the upward direction. And for some of us, it's going to be the downward direction. So I hope this gives you an idea that we don't always see things the same way. It is not just a perception issue, it is also your processing issue, right? And that's what we're going to talk about. Think of it like a processor, a computer processor, your brain, right? We have heard of companies like Intel and Windows, and we have heard of Apple, Macintosh. Okay, Apple Macintosh has come up with their own software, and Windows have come up with their own software. The Windows software was designed for Windows. It works best under that platform. And the Apple software works best with Apple, Apple Macintoshes. So if a Windows application was forced to run under a Macintosh, it may still run, but it's not going to work in an optimum manner. It is not, right? Because it was not designed to run. Let's just say Excel. Microsoft Excel was designed as a Windows program. Does it run on Macintosh? It does, but it's not going to work as powerfully or as smoothly once you run it under a Macintosh, because it wasn't designed for Macintosh. And on the other hand, programs like Photoshop, for example. Photoshop was designed for a Mac. So if you run it under a Windows, it will still work, but it's not going to work optimally, right? And this hopefully gives you some understanding of why your brain color and my brain color cannot be compatible. I cannot be your color, you cannot be my color. I can be mine, you can be yours, right? So let's look at some of the characteristics of the four colors so you understand what red, green, blue and purple represent. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to show you four short videos, but let me explain four terminologies for you to remember so you can quickly remember what each color means. So we're going to start with the red. Now the red is using a processor called linear. We talked about processors a while ago. So your processor is red, means it's linear, means everything that you do has to be very logical, structured. Everything has to be very systematic. Otherwise, you cannot make a decision. Otherwise, you cannot do what you want to do. You can't achieve what you want to achieve if things are not systematic and logical to your brain. Only with that knowledge, you can make decisions. So if you look at the little icons at the bottom, this is how a red person processes information. They get a bit of information, and then they do a lot of analysis. You can see analysis, and finally, they take action. Let's look at the next color. So that was linear. The green brain is what we call chaotic processing or random processing. So the green brain basically needs to take action in order to get clarity. If you don't get your hands dirty and start the project immediately, right, you do not get clarity. You do not get any form of understanding, because the green needs to do things, needs to take action. So looking at the icons at the bottom, you notice they just get a little bit of information and it's all about taking action immediately. And then they analyze a little bit after that, and then a bit more information, and then action again. And then they analyze again, and then a lot of action again. So you see, they're always on the move. They're always taking action. They're always doing, because they understand by doing. A red, on the other hand, understands by planning, by structuring, by logic. And then you have, of course, the third color, which is purple. Now, purple is called relational processing. Now, a purple person, a purple brain is all about data. It's all about information. A purple brain needs to have information after information, and all this information needs to be somewhat connected. They need to make sense, and they need to be connected for it to make sense to you. So if you look at the sequence of what a purple brain person would do, they get information, and then more information, and then some more information, and then only they start analyzing a little bit. Finally, they take action. So it may seem that a purple person is slow, right? Or they're delaying, or they are, they just take too much of time. But what a purple is doing, they are just getting a lot of information and connecting them before taking any action, before it makes sense to them, before they get clarity, right? So that is what a purple brain is all about. Next, we have the blue brain. Now, the blue brain is about intuition. It's about feelings. It's about their environment, how things were in all their lives. They use all the knowledge they have about their past, right? And they say, this feels right. It's the right thing to do. Before we start this project, let's make sure everyone feels okay. It's about intuition and feelings and emotions and people. So blue brain person, you can see, is all over the place. They analyze a bit, and then a bit of information, analyze again, information, a bit of action, and then they analyze again, because they're all about what's happening around them, which can constantly change, because they're about people at the end of the day, right? So this is the summary of the 4 colors that I just mentioned, and I'm going to show you a sample of each one in a short video. So the red is linear. They need clarity. They must be objective. They must see logic. A green is chaotic. Nothing is connected. They must act to get clarity. A blue is about processing in an intuitive way, about people, surroundings, and so forth. And it's all about emotions. And the purple brain is about information and everything being linked. All right. So let's see if there's any question. Okay, it's a lot of comments. I love purple. Yes, I love purple too. I'm a purple brain, so you can see that for me it's all about information as well. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to share a short video for each of the color, and you try to identify which color each video is or what's happening in that video, right? So let's give it a few seconds, and I'm going to show you. Please confirm that you can see my video. I hope you can.
No, we can't, not yet.
Not yet, all right. Give me a second. All right, what I'm doing is I'm switching from my PowerPoint to a Prezi. If you're familiar with Prezi, it is a presentation software as well. So you're looking at Prezi right now, and you will see Mary, Rama, and Jack watching a concert, and each of the musicians in the concert are a different brain color. You'll see that by their shirts that they're wearing. You have green, purple, blue, and red. So we're going to understand, or try to understand from this video, what each brain color is. So we've already looked at this, green. And this is how they process information. And that's the video we're going to watch shortly.
But Uncle James, Mummy said to take me to the hairdressers.
Ah, where's the money? I'll have a bash myself.
I'm back. Hello there.
Hi.
What happened?
Terrible hairdresser. Leave it to me. I'm just waiting for the manager to get back, and then, what, is he in trouble? Look, some idiot's cut my niece's hair. Yes, please. There's one other thing I need you to do, though. Okay, let me explain. I know this haircut has nothing to do with you, but my sister is watching outside, and I want her to think that you did it. So you sort out this terrible mess for me, and I will pay you double, okay? You're very, very nice people. Thank you.
Right. So from that video, I think it's apparent that he is what color do you think? Anyone? Just unmute yourself or just type it in the chat. Yeah, green, definitely, yeah, because he just does things and then the consequences are always later. Because the green tends to make a lot of mistakes. But the good thing is they bounce back from their mistakes very fast, faster than the other 3 colors. They bounce back very fast. And the other thing about green, they are also very, very, they are very creative. They're very innovative, because they dare to explore things as well, right? So as a result, because of their greenness, they also tend to make mistakes. Yeah. Let's look at the second video for purple. Many of you may have seen this video before. It's an advertisement from Honda when they came out with one of their cars some years ago. Let's take a look. This is the purple brain, where everything is connected.
Isn't it nice when things just work?
So from this, we can easily tell that this is the workings of a purple brain, isn't it? Because everything must be connected. In fact, this ad took them tens of thousands of hours of preparation because it all has to work flawlessly for this to have worked. Yeah, so Honda took really months and months to get this advertisement out, right? So that was purple brain. Now let's look at the third one, which is red. And you tell me why you think this is red. So it seemed like he had planned this from the beginning, because remember, reds are about structure. So he probably knew exactly what was the end game here, what was going to happen, right? Whereas if that were green, he probably may not have known so much, yeah, what was happening. Let's look at the fourth and final color, which is blue. It's an advertisement as well.
Wow, I love Jell-O.
Why?
Well, imagine waking up every morning with a little less hair. Then driving to work in heavy traffic. Only to find out when you get there that the project you were working on for a year is suddenly canceled. Well, the chocolatey taste of Jello pudding makes up for all that.
Here, you need this more than me.
Right, so what color do you think the sun is? It's blue, right? Because, you know, he felt what the dad was trying to tell him, although in his own mind, imagining himself in all those scenarios. And at the end, he gave the Jello to the father, because it's about his intuition and feelings and what he's hearing and saying. Yeah. So this is just to kind of give you an idea of the 4 colors, right? I'm going to go back to my previous share, which is the PowerPoint. I hope you can see it. No, you can't see it.
No.
Try that one more time. Can you see my PowerPoint? Yep.
Yes.
What we want to do now, just based on the explanation of what we covered in the last 15-20 minutes, some of you may already have an idea which color you are. I know some of you here have already done the test, but for those who have never done the test before, which color do you think you are? And I would like you to right click and rename yourself, right? So for example, if you look at my name up there, I'm going to call it Dave, and I'm going to put a dash and I'm going to type purple. So can you just guess your color? It may not even be accurate, but you just have a strong feeling, oh, I think I'm very red, or I think I'm very green, or I'm very blue. Can you go ahead? I'll give you 10 seconds for that. Right click your name, change it to your name and the color you think you most likely can resonate with. It can be a good question. It can be a mixture of 4, or in fact, all of us will have a mixture of all 4 colors, but the dominant one, that is your processor. The other colors, even though you have them, I'll show you that in a while. The other colors are all what we call nurtured. You learned that from your environment. Your dominant, you didn't learn it. You were born with it. Right? So I know some of you are putting it in the chat. That's also fine. Okay. So of course, the only other way is to do the test in order to find out your color. So very quickly, how the brain color system works. Let's look at this diagram here. If you look at the box on the left, you see the word perception. Each color has a unique way, our own way to perceive the world and information around us. So you have your way, I have my way. And then the way we process only makes sense to us. It will not make sense to the person next to us. So we got to allow that person to process it in their own way and not make them like us. And then each color will have their own way to form their own structures, their own barriers, their own conclusions before they can achieve the clarity. You notice? We all use our own way to achieve our own clarity, which makes sense to us. And it continues. After we achieve our clarity, you notice we go down the pipe, we notice we will all take action in our own unique way. Each color takes action in accordance with their own color system of achieving clarity. That's why we all do things differently. And if we can learn to accept that, then you will notice that the world will be a much better place. Right? So I'm going to show you the result. This is one of the results. This is actually mine. So you will notice that my dominant is purple because it's 53. And I'm very close red, so which means I can also be very, very red. And I have elements of green, 34. I also have elements of blue, although blue is the lowest in my case. I'm looking at the chart on the left. Right? So by looking at this chart, you know this person is a purple. Right? That's mine. And if you look at the next chart, we call this the miscommunication insight. So which means if you look at the shape, whatever, whether it's a square or a diamond or whatever, triangle, if you look at this particular shape right now, you will see some numbers there as well, 9, 13, 6, 22, right? So this simply means that the person that I get along with the most is the one with the highest number. So the one I get with the most is the lowest number. So which person or which color would I get along with the most? So in this particular case, it is the greens, the blues and the reds, because they're only 9 and 6, right? So the people that I got to work on a bit more is I got to work harder with the greens. But guess what? I got to work very hard with my own color type. Or just to let you know, from all the 4 colors, purples are the only color that most likely don't get along with their own color. Like red is okay with red, greens are okay with greens, blues are okay with blues. Purples usually do not get along with their own color. That's why you notice I got to work very hard with a fellow purple. Right? Let's look at another person. All right, this is another person, and obviously this person is a red dominant, right? And in fact, it's also quite well distributed. I have seen people with their blue only being 2, or their green being 85. So can you imagine? It all depends on how you do the test. And then look at the second chart next to it. Look at the red. Which color do you think he gets along the best with? Anyone? Who does a red get along the best with? He gets along with his own type. It's 0, the reading. Means a red loves another red. Because they all have that same mindset. Let's be very, systematic and logical and structured for everything. And a red needs to work very hard with a green. Because they cannot take the chaoticness of the green person. It's totally not within their system, right? So I hope this gives you a bit of idea, how this colored brain here is going to help you. But what does that all mean? This part is when you do the test, you'll be in the system and you'll be able to see, say you did it for your company or for your department, it'll be segregated, who are the greens, who are the blues, who are the reds, who are the purples, and you will see a yellow button throughout there that says additional insights. So if you, in my case, if I'm a red, I'm a purple, the additional insights means how do I get along with the greens? To manage them, to have a relationship with them. That button will give you a lot more information about how to get along with the different colors, right? And another thing you'll notice here is next to some people, you'll see a red danger sign, like the skeleton. Now, it simply means with those people, you don't stay away from them just because they have a danger sign. It means that you've got to work harder with these individuals because of just how they answered the test. Yeah, so you have to put in a bit more effort. So this is what we call a brain racist. Remember I talked about getting stuck in the process because we are often being judgmental. We judge people by the color of their brain. We say the green people are too impulsive, they're not careful. We always judge the purples to be not expressive and very slow to do anything, to take action. We look at the blues to be too soft. Why are you worried about people and feelings all the time? We've got a task to do, let's do it. And we look at the reds as being too rigid. And sometimes, it appears that they are not sensitive to other people. They're all about system, and not about, a human element whatsoever. So being a brain racist is exactly what it is. We are judging the other colors because they're not like us. Okay, so with colored brain, you also can see what kind of work style the different colors have, how they deal with themselves, with others in meetings, in discussions. The red will deal with people differently, the purples will be different, the greens will be different. Yep. Now, any questions on just colored brain for now? Anyone? You can unmute yourself. I know there's probably a lot of chat going on. I see the chat's moving constantly. Yeah, someone said the screen is a little blur, yeah? Sorry.
Yeah, there's a question there from Samuel. He's asking about age groups, whether it changes as they get older.
Right, good question. Colored brain does not change from the time you're born until you die. it's genetic. You'll always have the same color. No matter how many times you do the test, it's going to give you the same color, unless you fake the test, of course. Yeah, I've done this test about 5 or 6 times. It's always been purple. The numbers may not be the same though, but the results always going to be the same. Yeah, the other numbers may go up or down, but your dominant is always going to be the same. And I'm a proof for that, because I've done it many times. Right? And when we talk about the second element shortly, which is emotional driver, that is something that can change. Emotional drivers can change, but not your colored brain, which is what our next topic is going to be about. Any other questions before I move on to the emotional drivers?
There's a few more questions there, Dave. Asman's asking, can our child also have the same color brain as us?
Yes, of course. They can. Depends on how their brains are wired, but it's not genetic, as in if the dad is red, the child is going to be red. It's not that kind of genetic. It's just how they were designed. And I have no answer for that, how they were designed. So if you are red, it doesn't mean your child is red. That I can tell you. Your child can be a totally different color. In fact, if you have 4 in a family, all 4 can be different colors. Or if you have 4 children, all 4 of your children can be different colors. Yep.
There's also some people asking about the test itself, where they can do it and whether it's free.
Right. The test is not free. There is an online test. You can get it off my website as well. It's $18.95. It's kind of like a fixed price, US dollars, for the test, and you would get a report at the end. Yeah, I can send you an email at the end after this whole thing. I can send an email to all of you and direct you to where you can assess this test. Yeah. Any other questions? Let's move on to emotional driver. We have about 20 minutes, and we sometimes call it your motivational drivers. Now, I'm going to explain the 8 drivers. These 8 drivers are the reasons why all of us do what we do. If you just bought a new house, or you just want to go travel, or you want to try out bungee jumping, or you're always buying your partner gifts, right? Or you love gatherings, and you love going out with friends. Everything we do has a reason behind it, whether you realize it or not. Okay, someone is saying it's very blurred. I'm not sure why. So I'm gonna try to see if I can stop my share and try it one more time. Let me see whether that works. Much clearer now?
Yes,
Yes, it is.
very clear.
Sorry about that, because I had the optimized thing on, so it kind of for it to be fast, it blurs it out a bit. So I turned that off now. All right, sorry about that. So these are the 8 motivational drivers. All of us may have all of it, or most of it, or some of it, but we are only going to be concerned with the top 3 drivers for each of us. So let me begin by explaining each one very quickly, and then I'll give you a short exercise. Number 1, love and belonging. If this driver is important to you, means that you love having connection with other people, friends, family. You are that social person. You need to, wherever you go, you need to have people around you. Even when you travel, you'll call back your family and say, I've arrived safely. It's always having this connection with other people. Yeah, love and belonging. Controlled security means you want to maintain security in your life, your future, whether it's savings or buying property or investing, or just taking charge of everything around you. Yeah, especially your future, your family, your children. You want to take control over it. So that means controlled security is high on your list. Diversity means everything you do needs to have some variety and excitement in it. You are the type that wants to try out new things, meet new people, experience different culture, different food, travel around the world. You need excitement. You want to do bungee jumping, stuff like that. Recognition means everything you do needs to be recognized. So if you go for a course, you are waiting for that certificate, which you will probably frame and put behind you on the wall, because that recognition is very important to you. Right? If you had a doctorate, you'd want to be known as a doctor. If someone calls you Hari, you'll be like, no, that would be Dr. Hari for you. Because the recognition is so important to you, because that kind of motivates you. Achievement means constantly in your life you need to have progress, right? So if you had a 1-room apartment, your next step would be a 2-room apartment, a 3-room apartment, if you know what I mean, right? There must be constant achievement, even if it's a small thing, like I just want to paint or clean up my attic. That's an achievement. You want to have progress in everything you do. Next is challenge and growth. Challenge and growth simply means you are the type of person that is a continuous, lifelong learner. While the rest of us go to YouTube to watch, the election results, you go to YouTube just to learn something new, watching those how-to videos. Because for you, everything is about growing, improving. You challenge yourself and you grow. Excellence. Excellence means all the things you do need to have that touch of excellence in it. Whether it's cooking or preparing a proposal or a report, you want to have that touch of excellence, even if it's not required. But it's a personal thing. You want to do it with, it's not being a perfectionist. It's about you wanting things to be excellent because it motivates you. So even at home, when you're preparing a meal for your family, you would decorate the plate like they would do in a fancy restaurant, the way you put in your sauces and decorate your plates. That's what excellence means. Everything you want to do is with excellence. Lastly would be responsibility, and this is the need to contribute to other people, whether it's welfare or helping out animals or giving back to society. You always want to give back, whether it's your time, whether it's your money, right? And that is what contribution means. Contribution or responsibility. Now, what I would like you all to do now is I'm going to give you a simple exercise before we come towards the end. I want you to imagine and write this down on a piece of paper that you have just won or received or inherited $1 million, right? I want you to write down what are the things you will do with this money. Just write down on a piece of paper. You can put in the chat if you want, but name as many things, at least 3, 4, 5 things. What will you do with this money? And think like you really have this money and it's something that you now think you can do with this money. I can give you some ideas. Maybe you want to travel, you want to buy a house, you want to invest, you want to continue your studies or for your children's studies, or I don't know, you want to, any of these things. Give it away. So Rashid will say he'll give it away. How much, Rashid, will you give away? Someone says donate 50%, right? Anyone else? All? Wow. So Rashid, I can already tell what's your emotional driver. Okay, someone says, Azman says family first, right? So you can see from just your answers, I can kind of determine what your drivers are. Now the next exercise I want you to do is, I would like you to rank these 8 from 1 to 8 in the order that you think is important. So for example, I'll tell you my top 3. My top 3 is achievement, challenge and growth, and excellence. That's very important to me. It doesn't mean I don't have love and belonging. It doesn't mean I have no responsibility, but they come after these 3. So if you want to make me happy, make sure that you help me achieve these top 3 of mine, and I will be happy. Right? Can you go ahead and write this in your own pieces of paper or in your own mind, so that we know what is your number 1, what is your number 2. You don't have to share it with us. It's just for yourself. Or you can take a snapshot of this and do it later. That's fine. Okay, some of you said 5, 6, 5, and 8. So challenge, achievement, and then responsibility. Yeah. Some of you could be responsibility. Like, who was it earlier? Was it Azman? No, it wasn't Azman. Rashid, it was, right? Yeah, you want to give 100% away, means for you it's responsibility all the way. Some other people, they might not want to give all of it away. They want to keep some for other things, maybe investment perhaps. Okay, so from here we can already see that we are all different. Okay, I'm going to move on. So that's basically what the human driving force or the motivational drivers are. Now, even at work, these are displayed, right? Whether your love and belonging, comes in certain ways at work. Diversity comes in different ways. Some people, they need to work with diverse people or diverse cultures for them to get that emotional driver. Some of us need to learn and grow when we work. We can't be stagnant and doing the same thing over and over again, right? So I'll not go into all that. Now, the difference between motivational drivers and colored brain, as I mentioned, doesn't change. Motivational drivers, however, changes based on your environment. So with friends, you have top 3 drivers that are different. With family, you have different drivers. With your colleagues, you have different drivers. With your clients, you have different drivers. And your drivers can continuously change. Let's say tomorrow we all migrated, say, to Australia. After a few weeks or months there, your drivers can change again, right? So this is not innate, this is based on your environment. And the rankings can change. Okay, so imagine how powerful it is once you know the rankings of the people around you. So coming back to what we talked about earlier, the brain has got 3 parts. The part that's called the neocortex, which is basically where we process a lot of our information. We have the limbic part of the brain, where all the emotions are situated. And in the limbic brain, we also have, you may have heard of this, the fight or flight response, right? For you to even feed your kids, the need to make sure your family is okay and fed, all that comes in the limbic brain, right? So the fight or flight is where we as humans, we have a decision in front of us. When something happens, we immediately respond by fighting or taking a flight or running away. Like if you're walking on the road and a car came very near to you, you have no time to tell your brain, okay, what's happening here? Should I move away? No, you would immediately respond, and that is flight, right? So that is basically how the lizard behaves as well. If you have lizards in your house, you will realize the lizard is never going to say, I know this person, he lives here, all right, it's cool. No, it's never going to happen. When the lizard sees you and you go near it, it's going to scramble for its life, even if they see you every day. And that's what the reaction is all about. So we want to try to be less of a lizard, right? And this last bit, we talk about the circle of tolerance and acting, if you remember. The circle of tolerance is the level of negative stimulus that you can deal with intelligently before you start reacting. So how big or how large or wide is your circle of tolerance today? The smaller your tolerance is, the more lizard you're becoming or being. The larger the circle is, the more tolerant you are with the people around you. The more understanding you are, the less conflicts there will be. So the idea is to remove our encoded assumptions. Don't worry about the process, worry about the objective, and understand each other's brain color. That is an emotional driver. That's one way to increase your circle of tolerance. I'm going to skip this bit. Right? So the conclusion and what's the point of all of this is, when you have a greater understanding of someone's colored brain and emotional drivers, it increases that circle of tolerance I talked about and gives you less reaction. And what does that mean? Less reaction now allows you to make more intelligent actions and intelligent decisions. And intelligent decisions let you make better decisions, which all means that you now have less stress in your life. more effectiveness with the people that you work with, better improved relationships with everyone around you, and last but not least is better and more professional success and personal success. So one last question I have for you to act intelligently. And my last question is, which do you think is the best color? Anyone? So last question for today. Which is the best color? Oh.
Purple.
Purple. Is that because I'm purple?
No, because I'm purple.
Anyone else?
think we did all.
Sorry, who was that? I heard someone say all. Well, you are right. The
Yeah, a
answer-
combination of all.
Yeah, it is all colors. All colors are the best colors, right? Now just think of a team of footballers playing a game and they made a mistake. What happens if they're all lizards? Everyone will say, oh, you're wrong. Why did you do that? Why did you pass the ball earlier? They're all busy blaming each other. But what would all the different colors, say the Ramas in a team, all the Rama who are in a team, what would they do? Even if they're losing a game, they will focus on the objective. Okay, how can we turn this around? I will understand your brain color, you understand my brain color, and we set each other up for success. You see? So we remove the blame game. And that's how you can be more effective and communicate better with people. So in conclusion, serve your objective and not the purpose and not the process. Stop blaming other people. Remove blame from your vocabulary. Remove your encoded assumptions, because encoded assumptions are not universal truth. It's the truth you think it is, which doesn't necessarily make it a truth. Don't be like the lizard. Act, but don't react. Act intelligently. Remove your colored glasses. See other people for what they are. And don't be a brain racist, right? So in conclusion, starting this point right now, which of these characters would you like to be or want to be with immediate effect right after today? Would you like to be the villain or the rogue like Jack? Would you like to be the observer like Mary, who just observes and does nothing? Or be a villain and just condemn everyone and blame everyone and live life miserably? Or would you like to be the superhero like Rama, who looks constantly at the objective, who understands other people, understands their brain color, understands their drivers, and set them up for success, and understanding himself at the same time, right? So I know the answer, but this is just basically a parting thought for us to remember that we want to constantly be a Rama in our work environment, with our families, with our friends. Any question, anyone? You can unmute yourself now. Rosanna will put in the link for the Thursday program that I talked about in the morning. For those who, when I started, I'm sorry. On Thursday, I'm actually doing a webinar on virtual engagement. So if you want to know how I did this, how to engage with your participants more effectively with activities and games, I'm partnering with a virtual team building expert. His name's Jason Kalai-Chelvam, and we'll be both doing that webinar on Thursday, same time, 3 to 4:30. So the link should be in your chat in a short while. And for anyone who'd like to get in touch with me, my social handles or my contact details, you can scan this QR code that you're seeing right now, or type in the link, which will also be provided in your chat, to access my social handles and get connected with me if you want to be in touch with me. Right? That's some of my information as well, or you can kind of take a snapshot of it or a picture of it. Right, any questions, anyone? You can unmute yourself now. We've come to the end of the program.